Well, forget what I said about subdued violence, that's for sure. Hey guys, here my review for American Horror Story Roanoke, episode 4, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. You guys know I've really been enjoying this season so far. I especially love last week's episode, and I was really looking forward to seeing the way this episode is going to turn out. And let me just tell you guys, at first when I watched this episode, I genuinely loved it. I was going to say this was the best episode of the season, and that I really am loving the direction the season is headed. But really thinking about it, as much as I like this episode, I do think that we're focusing a little too much on the supporting characters and not as much on Matt and Shelby. And let me explain right now. While we do find out a lot of information about the house and things like that, which was great, I love finding out what we did in this episode, we don't really know a ton about Matt and Shelby. All we really know about them is that they're an interracial couple and that Shelby had a miscarriage. Other than that, we don't really know much else about them regarding their background. I don't know if that's intentionally set up for the twist, but anyways, let's just get into this episode because I really do want to talk about it. A lot did happen in this episode, which also contains probably the most disturbing scene I've ever seen in American Horror Story history, but let's just get into it because there really is a lot to talk about. So we start off just where we left off last week, and we see in the very beginning that Shelby remains livid at Matt for doing the deed with Skathath. We find out her name is. That is Lady Gaga's character. That's the witch, Skathath. And she's obviously quite upset with him because she thinks that this was intentional. But of course, he reminds us that he has no memory. You know, he says he doesn't remember a single thing about what happened in the reenactment. And he actually gets really emotional and says it's like a part of his brain was carved out. And I do think the scene was a little too over the top. Like, Cuba Gooding Jr. was fine in this scene, but I thought overall, just the way that he was acting, just a little too over the top for me. But Shelby says that she can tell that he wasn't culpable, which strikes us as a very interesting choice of words, and basically makes her think, all right, maybe he is telling the truth. At this point, it seems like she seems to believe him, which I thought was interesting. And I did like the way the episode started out. You know, you can really tell that even though, you know, their marriage seems okay so far, definitely it seems like this, you know, Skathatch is out to mess with them. That's definitely what I think, at least. It seems like she's there to destroy their marriage, and I thought it was definitely interesting to see. There's no Lee in this entire episode, by the way, and something that I did hear people say that is kind of starting to piss me off a bit is that Matt and Shelby do not seem to think on their own. They seem to basically just do what other people tell them to do, and yeah, it is kind of getting annoying a little bit, but either way, I thought it was interesting to see. So he's on the verge of a breakdown. Finally, Shelby says that she believes him, and Shelby says she saw in his eyes that he truly didn't remember having sex in the woods, so she seems to believe him. So then we cut to Shelby. She's about to take a shower, and then the pig man tries to attack her with a knife. He chases her out. He's growling. Matt knocks him down. I mean, just a crazy scene, really. I really had no idea what was going to happen there. And Pigman's continuing to stalk them until we see Dr. Elias Cunningham, who does in fact reappear in this episode. He appears, he hits the Pigman and yells Croatoan, which seems to be the only thing that is able to get these demons, or whatever you really want to call them, away, which I thought was interesting to see. So Shelby, of course, doesn't really understand the word Croatoan, and Elias explains it was left at Roanoke so the others could find the new colony. And let me just say, I really am liking Denis O'Hare in this episode, but he's definitely not going to topple Liz Taylor. I think we're definitely seeing that he's not really going to topple Liz Taylor, but he says it's so the others could find the new colony. It's a world of dark power and blood magic. Elias says he only lived in this house for about 6 months, and all the owners of the place always died or went missing with just a couple months of taking ownership in the house. And he can't live there, but kept it until he lost it because he unfortunately couldn't afford the taxes. Kind of like Matt and Shelby, how, you know, they can't leave because of, you know, they need to leave the house as is. So that's why it was up for sale when Matt and Shelby bought it. And I thought that was interesting that we found that out. That's how, you know, it became on sale and everything. So he tells them they want him there, and then he's trying to help them. Matt wants him to leave, and then says Elias says that he knows things like that Pigman will be back and that he's been there before. He has a book with a list of every bit of paranormal activity in and around the house, with the records going back all the way to the 1700s, which we did in fact hear the name Mott in there. I'm pretty sure that Dandy's great-grandfather was the one that ended up building the the house and everything. So I do like the way they connected that to Freak Show. I thought it was interesting overall. In general, this kind of breaks the whole theory of every episode is going to connect to a different, season, because this did kind of connect to Freak Show, but it really wasn't that much like Freak Show, I have to say. So Matt then sees this photo of the sisters that he saw in his dream, and current Matt says at this point that he just didn't really know what to believe, and I thought that was definitely interesting to see. Then we get a lot of exposition in this next scene where Elias tells Flashback, Shelby, and Matt that even though these sisters were actually killed by the Butcher and her people, Elias says that he knows this because the sisters told him that this one night when he was hiding in the woods, he can't forget the horror of their deaths. One sister was pulled from both sides until her arms were ripped off, and then the other one was head was chopped off by the Butcher, so really graphic stuff, I have to say. I mean, remember all that stuff I said about subdued horror? That's definitely going away after this episode, because there was a lot of graphic shit that happens in this episode, but Elias shows them others, including her, after staying in the house without. Every missing person or death takes place during the 6 days of the blood moon, and that's the only period when the spirits can kill, and the first quarter moon actually starts that night. So basically, they're fucked. I mean, these demons are definitely going to come after them, we definitely see, and I'm not going to call them demons, I guess ghosts, whatever you really want to call them, but they're coming after, and they only come out during the blood moon. So, yes, we get a lot of lengthy exposition there, but it's exposition that we needed, and I really did like seeing that. So, current Math recalls that it was hard not to take Elias seriously at this point because there were so many deaths. I mean, it sounded so real. How could, if he had all these deaths, how could he make something like that up? It sounds quite, absurd to actually make something like that up. So, he's pretty much on board at this point. Shelby says that she thought that he just wanted the house back, and that was just him trying to give them the house back, and Flashback, Shelby tells Elias that they can't leave the house without Flora, and that Priscilla, unfortunately, Elias thinks that he actually knows where Priscilla is. So I thought that was interesting to see. So current Shelby admits that she felt horrible about turning Lee into the police, and it mainly was because of the guilt in her, because she felt that Lee and Matt were plotting against her, and that they had information on their own, and Shelby, turned her in the police because of that. Well, I mean, why didn't you think this before you turned her in? That's what I have to say. I mean, to me, getting Shelby, getting Lee away, didn't really contribute to much. I mean, they talk about it in the episode, but they don't really talk about it a ton, and it just kind of felt like they did this just to get Lee away from the episode. I don't know if Angela Bassett had other commitments or something, but the fact that she wasn't there, it did feel quite strange, especially the fact they didn't, call her or something. I mean, if she felt so guilty, why didn't you just call her on the phone and try to bail her out? I mean, that would have been the smart thing to do, but I get that there's other problems. But really, when you think about it, I mean, if she was so guilty, they should have tried, if she felt so bad about it, why didn't they just try to bail her out? I mean, that would have been the smart thing to do, but Matt thinks that they have to find Flora alive in order to free Lee, so Elias takes Shelby and Matt into the woods where Priscilla supposedly hangs out, while current Matt says he trusts Elias because he realized that Priscilla is actually the little girl who led them to the root cellar and to Elias in the first place, so we find out. So they hear noise in the woods, and Matt sees Skathath, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but Skathach, I don't really know, Skathach, I honestly don't know how you pronounce her name. But Shelby gets angry, chases after her, obviously because this is the man that just had sex with her husband, and current Shelby says she doesn't know what possessed her. Shelby sees men with horrible wounds advancing toward her. Elias grabs her, they run, she yells Croatone, but it doesn't seem to work. She doesn't seem to have much of an effect on them because the blood moon cycle has started, so basically she can't do anything. And they spot Flora playing with Priscilla, other victims of the spirits, including the sisters and Pigman. And as Elias is begging Priscilla to let Flora go, a group of men shoot him with arrows, he dies, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there's no way that that's the end of Dr. Elias Cunningham. He's billed as a main character this season. He was one of the first characters we meet, and there's no way that he's actually gonna die. I think it's gonna be one of those things where he's gonna come back, and I don't know if he's gonna be a spirit, or if he's gonna end up joining the colony, but either way, he's definitely going to come back. That's not the end we saw of him. Kind of upset that he left so early, but Matt and Shelby then flee back to their house and basically are left to deal with this on their own. And Cricket then greets them at the door, asks if they're ready to finally listen to him, because as we know, they didn't really believe him last week, so now they really need to see if he's actually telling the truth. So Cricket tells him right away that Flora is definitely not dead, that Flora is in fact out there, and Matt and Shelby promise to do anything that he says. So Cricket apparently went back to tell the Butcher that they would leave, but she no longer, for some reason, wants to make a deal with them. We don't know why, but Cricket needs to understand what he's dealing with and heads back out to talk to the Butcher, because he feels that he'll be able to convince her. So current Shelby says when he came back, it was obviously been through a horrifying experience, and they don't know what it was, but obviously something happened. So we flash back, Shelby and Matt ask him what happened. Cricket reveals that he thought he was going to be killed. The witch, we find out, blinded him, was going to kill him, but he told her that he knew that she was the mastermind. He offered her Matt because Cricket saw it, and we find out that Cricket was actually the one that got her to Matt. That is the reason why her and Matt had sex. It was mainly because of Cricket, because Cricket saw that she had physical needs, and no one needed to satisfy them. So I do like the way they're setting up Skate Thatcher's character overall. I thought overall she was interesting. She took his hand. He was able to see everything clearly. They walked through his cornfield centuries in the past, back to when Matt and Shelby's house was the site of the true lost colony of Roanoke. But they weren't lost. They loved it here. They performed human sacrifice in order to keep the area fruitful. I don't know why Shelby was so surprised they were practicing human sacrifice, because she literally saw 2 episodes ago that that's what was going on. So I don't know why she was so shocked at this. That just felt kind of weird to me. But not all the citizens, we found out, were actually supporting the sacrifices. Even the butcher's son, Ambrose, thought the Witch of the Wood poisoned his mother's mind, and he led the townspeople in a meeting against his mother. They're all ready to return home because he was very much against what was going on. He just felt like this wasn't right, and the Skathath tells the butcher to bend them to her will, so she can use the power of the blood moon to bind their souls to her for eternity. And the butcher has gathered the townsfolk at a lawn table, telling them that she's repenting and is sorry for what's happened. And each of them the special fruit as a peace offering. Everyone eats. They all immediately begin to choke. Even her son is choking. It's really kind of hard to watch. And she stabs Ambrose in the chest with her butcher knife. Even though she spared him in the last episode, she stabs him. Then proceeds down the table, killing each and every one of them. And she tells them that they will all follow her in the next life. She's soaking the area with their blood, so they're tethered to these souls, to these grounds forever. And after everyone is dead, she hands her knife to the witch, and the witch offs her. So that is how I guess they're able to come back, which I thought was interesting to see. So Cricket describes it as a blood sacrifice to the ancient gods. It's not devil worship. Shelby thinks it's devil worship, but it's in fact a blood sacrifice to ancient gods, and it bonded them all to the area for eternity. And every year, and he even talks about how there are some religions that aren't really great and have some weird things about them, and that's the religion that they were in. So we found that every year in the anniversary of the slaughter, the spirits can turn lethal, and Matt and Shelby don't want to leave without Flora. So Cricket says he knows a spell that can put the spirits down for good. He's going to put an end to it all, but he has to go back to his hotel room to get the supplies first, because he does have a way to do that, but we don't really know what it is. So Shelby says that we're excited to hear it was coming to an end, because she felt that, okay, finally we can avenge these demons. You know, finally these spirits will leave us alone. And we did find out a lot in that, backstory. I like finding out that this was a lost colony. I like that we finally heard the name Roanoke, because yes, we've heard of Roanoke, but we didn't really hear him say the lost colony, so I'm glad that we know all that stuff now, because we don't have to be like, I think this is the lost colony. We now know it is in fact the lost colony, and I like seeing that. And I do like the way that they kind of told their own story of how the lost colony went missing. I don't know if they all actually killed each other. I mean, to be honest, we don't know what happened to Lost Colony. I don't think anyone ever will, but I do think it's an interesting theory, and honestly, I think while obviously this is a story, I don't think it's pretty far off from what happened. I could definitely see something like this happening, and I think definitely it does actually sound like this could have happened, but basically, Cricket takes an Uber back to his motel when Flora runs in front of the car. He gets out, chases after her, and Matt says that they were worried because he was gone for hours, and they don't really know what happened, but he didn't seem to come back. So, flashback, Matt tells Shelby to get some rest, and they both end up falling asleep, and it's dark when they finally wake up. Cricket hasn't returned, and Matt leaves Shelby sleeping on the couch, heads outside with a gun after hearing noises. I don't know why he went outside. This just didn't really seem smart, and he's drawn towards the woods and towards Elias's old hiding place. He heads down to the cellar where all the candles are lit, and Skathatch is there. He can't resist her. Just then, back in the house, Shelby wakes up terrified. She calls for Matt, but there's no answer, and she also heads outside, and Matt explains that the witch opened herself up to him, and he learned about all her story, her pain, her experiences, and he says it was probably the most intimate experience he's ever had. Her people actually worship the old gods, we find out, and she was blamed for the horrible journey to the New World, and she was set to be burned at the stake once they arrived in America. However, she ended up killing her jailers before they could burn her, and she actually set herself free. Just he escaped in the woods, and Matt says the old magic in the new world created something new. He thinks the witch wanted him to understand that and join her. And I thought the story, while interesting, I think we could have gotten a little bit more into it and maybe actually seen it play out rather than hear him tell about it. I'd rather have seen it rather than just hear Matt say it. And yes, we did in fact see it, but I think there was a little bit too much exposition there. I think we definitely could have seen this play out a little bit more, but either way, I thought it was interesting to get some backstory on Skathatch overall, and she's definitely a different character than the Countess. We definitely do see that. I don't think she's interesting as a Countess, but I do like the way they're going with her. So, back at the house, Shelby screams when she sees the butcher and her people heading toward the farm with Flora. Torches and weapons. I mean, it is absolute chaos at this point. It seems like they're about to attack on their house, and that finally seems to break Matt out of the witch's spell. Matt runs to Shelby, wants the butcher to hand over Flora. She won't. The land needs to be consecrated with fresh blood, and she's about to slice Flora's throat. Priscilla steps in, pushes the butcher from behind, allowing Flora to run. And I like that we saw that Priscilla actually wasn't a bad person, that Priscilla actually seemed like she was on Flora's side, and I thought it was interesting to see. This allows Flora to run back to Matt and Shelby, and it seems like they got her back. So they head to the house where the butcher slaps Priscilla. Flora's not hurt, but keeps saying the man, and we don't know who the man is, but Matt and Shelby look outside. They see the cricket has been captured, is brought to stand before the butcher. We see the Uber driver for some reason. I don't know why we got an interview with the Uber driver. This was kind of weird. But he tells the producers that he picked up Cricket up around dawn. He waited for Cricket after he chased after Flora, but he never came back, and flashback Shelby and Match. They watch the butcher. She ends up slitting Cricket's throat. They open up his stomach, and Ambrose takes a hook, pulls out his intestines while he's still alive. And guys, that might be the single most graphic thing I've ever seen in American Horror Story history. Like, I literally can't believe they went there. So graphic, so disturbing. There might be something more disturbing than that, but I can't really think of it. I mean, if there is, let me know, but that really was so hard to watch. And Kermit says that they knew that they were in fact next, and that is the way the episode ends. Really good stuff overall, but let's get into this episode because I definitely do have a lot to say about it. Here's my thing with this episode. Yes, we got a lot of insight into, the history of the house, and even the butcher, even Skathatch got a backstory. Like I said, I think there's way too much focus, though, on these characters. As interesting as the story of the Lost Colony is, our main characters are Matt and Shelby. They're the way we started out this show. They were the way we were introduced to them, and we're just not really getting anything that compelling with them. Am I rooting for them? Kind of. I'm kind of rooting for them, obviously, because they're characters that I like, and I think Sarah Paulson and Cuba Gooding Jr. are doing good give good performances in their scenes. But as characters, they're very, very bland. I mean, Shelby seems like every single wife who's suspicious of her husband, and Matt in general doesn't really seem like the most trustworthy guy. Now, again, I know there's going to be a twist in episode 6. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm really ready for that twist, because if they don't do something more interesting with these two characters, I don't know if I'm going to be able to root for them, because they just haven't really given me anything that compelling with their characters. Yes, they're an interracial couple, and yes, Shelby had a miscarriage, but other than that, there's not really much else they've given us here. And yes, I know that they think that, the Southern are turning on them because they're interracial, but we've barely focused on that. We only focused on that for like one episode, and I kind of wanted to get more into that, and I'm really ready for the twist. But guys, next week's episode looks fucking insane. I mean, it looks like the butcher is going to turn on their house, and we don't know what's going to happen there. Now, we know, at least we think, that Matt and Shelby do in fact survive, but I'm thinking the twist is going to be, like I said, that they're ghosts and that Billie Dean Howard is interviewing them. That's what I'm thinking is going on, but again, I don't really know why they got the Uber driver in there. I understand why, obviously, because it was a documentary, but that was kind of strange. Sad to see Cricket go. Cricket was such a great character, and definitely one of the best parts of this, and I think he definitely was one of the highlights of the season for sure. So seeing him go definitely was kind of sad to watch. I really did like his character overall, so definitely sad to see Cricket go. And then as far as, Dr. Elias, I think Elias definitely is coming back. Elias for sure is not dead. There's no way that Elias is dead. I know that for sure. He's billed at, he is dead definitely, but I think he is going to come back as a ghost, and maybe we'll save them, but we'll have to see the way that all turns out. They have Flora back for now, but I don't really know if Flora's going to survive. We'll have to see. I like seeing that Priscilla was, in fact, a good person, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. I think we pretty much are confirmed that Cheyenne Jackson is the narrator, because we heard Cheyenne Jackson's voice once again when the Uber driver was there. He asked him a question, so I'm pretty sure that he is going to be to be revealed to be the voice of, the person who's behind My Roanoke Nightmare. He's the person interviewing them, so I'm looking forward to seeing the way that turns out. A lot of people are starting to think that Evan Peters is Piggy Pig, and I could really see that happening, definitely. I know that obviously we haven't seen his face, but every single episode they say Evan Peters, Evan Peters. So I'm wondering who could he be. Honestly, I think it's a viable theory. I mean, the fact we haven't seen who Piggy Pig is, we haven't seen him take off the mask, we haven't even seen a video of him, I think there's definitely a reason why, and I think it definitely is going to play out in the twist in episode 6. I'm really ready for that twist, guys, I have to say. Not that I'm not liking the season, because I really am. I just want them to give me a little bit more to talk about, because right now they aren't really giving me too much to deal with. Why Matt went back to Skathatch, I have no idea, honestly. I get that obviously Cricket made a deal with Skathatch, but I don't know why he went back to her. I just didn't really make a ton of sense to me. I did like her backstory overall, but I don't really know where we're going to go from her from here, if she's going to maybe save them. I mean, she definitely seems to be the head of all the evil. We pretty much got that confirmed that she's the head of all this. She's the reason why when the blood moon happens, it's all because of Skathatch, pretty much. I thought that was interesting to see. Kathy Bates is absolutely slaying it in this role. Let me just say that right now. This is by far probably going to be her best character she's ever played. She's so creepy, but you also feel so bad for her because she's very outnumbered. No one seemed to really want to follow her, and I think they're doing a really good job when it is to get behind her character. I just wish just as much was put into Matt and Shelby, because they don't really seem to be putting much effort into their characters overall. I don't know if we're going to see Lee in the next episode. I'm assuming we will, that we saw her in the preview, but we'll have to see. Overall, guys, the most guys saw this episode. Love to your thoughts on it. Not a bad episode. I thought this was a good episode overall. I just felt like there was a little bit too much exposition and backstory in this episode, but I'm so ready for the next episode. It looks absolutely insane. I can't wait to see the way that turns out. We're almost halfway through the season, guys, and it's going to be crazy, but that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the series premiere of the new CW show Frequency, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.